Just one last thing I wanted to connect it to. In the beginning of our conversation today, you mentioned fairness, what is just and what is unjust. And I feel like having this, I caught myself a few times thinking, reflecting on my past and thinking that something wasn't fair. And then, but what does it mean, fair or not fair? And it seems to me that this is a path to self-victimization, like something wasn't fair, something was done to me in an unfair way. And again, I guess I'm asking myself, to what extent is it even helpful? Because I think I have this nasty habit to tell myself stories about myself and how I was miserable in some way. And I'm realizing that it really doesn't help. Like, acknowledging certain unmet needs is important to outline a pathway to, what can I do for myself now? But that at the same time, I feel like it could be really therapeutic to, if a person tells themselves, so this is how I managed to cope, this is how I managed to meet my needs. And do we even need to introduce the concept of fairness? To what extent do you think it's necessary?
Well, there's a danger in facing what that might be, because if we conclude that, I wasn't treated fairly, then it means I'm the victim of someone or something. And while sometimes it's important that we acknowledge the degrees to which we have been victimized, maybe by life itself, and the fact that we don't have a collective order that's aligned with fairness and justice. It's important that we don't get caught in the side of victimhood that says, it was unfair, and so therefore I'm a victim of life. I think there's a few virtues or values or principles that are quite important. One is justice or fairness. Another one is truth. There's truth and there's falsehood, And we are better off when we're seeking and discovering the truth. And we're better off when we're seeking and discovering the balance of fairness. Now, the false assumption we shouldn't make is that it should be true and it should be fair. Life isn't fair. It won't be. Okay? But we can still hold that as an ideal. And I think the same thing is true for love. Now, love is a more generalized concept, and it can mean very many different things. But I think we need to have these sort of principles around which we navigate, and they might be the North Star, which is far enough off to be able to say we can't expect life to be that way, but they still have to do with maybe how we feel or what it is that represents the ideals that we can aspire to. And yes, we could go into a whole thing about victimization and the degrees to which we are, and victimhood, which is when we claim that victimization as a way of living life with a certain kind of less responsibility because of what happened to us. Really, what's required of us to be responsible is to learn what it means to heal, to grow, to take responsibility for our relationship to life. And ironically, sometimes people who suffered the most are forced into those questions and are more likely to find their way through than people for whom life has been kind of okay, and they've gone along with the values that have been imposed by consumer culture or by those who've manipulated our collective consciousness, and we don't realize, oh, we're just kind of going with the flow of what's been a default system, so.
This conversation gotten so intense and so interesting. We only have 10 minutes left just to wrap it up. I would love to hear, one last question for each of us, or a thought that you wanted to provide, whatever comes up. But for me, I would like to begin, because the what you have mentioned about deficit, you've mentioned about love, this coping mechanism, all this stuff has been running in my head for so long, because me personally, I don't know if this is a suffering, but I had this savior complex, and I have seen it towards most of the people, and I'm trying to ask myself, am I trying to save someone because I feel good about it, or am I trying to save someone because I'm waiting for someone to save me? So all of these questions are coming up, So how will you be able to, or which need, or I don't know where this will go, but is there a certain need that you have to meet? And does self-love, validation, all these subjective concepts that you should provide within yourself first to feel the okayness, which need is it? Like, can you point me to a certain point where I can feel like, oh, so this is something that I have to work on for myself, so that I will undo that savior complex, and I'm able to help someone based on what I am abundant from. Does that?
Well, again, we don't have much time, but I would say these are really, really good questions to be asking yourself. And there is this savior complex, martyr complex, and they're both based on the idea that we somehow gain value when we've done something for someone else, either suffered or saved, okay? And ultimately, is projecting what we need to do for ourselves onto others, okay? So saving ourselves or figuring out how much suffering there is really figuring out how can I be empowered enough to take or leave something. Okay, I can take it or I can leave it, because I don't have to do it. I don't have the need to do it. I can do it out of my choice, because I'm already accepting the human being that I am. So empowerment is when we're not compensating for an unmet need or a desire. You see, if I'm insecure and I think by helping Aiden I'm going to feel good, it's probably true, but is it actually resolving my insecurity? No, it's not. It's a compensation for something that's a deeper unmet need. And I think we have to, look more inward to say, well, how much am I either saving people or martyring myself, suffering, on behalf of others, to go, well, something's off balance there, and I end up resenting because I end up giving more than I'm getting, or, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, because before, this is based on the relationship area of life. Let's just say, am I saving this person? And then, is this love? And then later on, when the relationship ends, it will give me the feeling of resentment. And I'm trying to ask myself, like, how can one really give love out from a space of abundance, because you have like gave that to yourself enough or more than enough? How will you know that it's out from abundance? How will you know that it came from a clean and genuine space? Is there?
Well, I think that's probably each one of us has to figure out. If we resent it later, then maybe that's. But I think empowerment is I can take it or leave it. I can do it or not do it. Okay, I'm not living from the place where I'm obligated, or I would say the only time when that's not true is when we're responsible for a child. Okay, then it's not true that we don't have that as a responsibility. Okay, and it's also very important that we've accepted that responsibility and that we are full-heartedly, having made that choice, living what that means, because a child needs us as a parent to do for us what we can't do. So I'm aware of the time, and I would love to hear from both of these people.
I guess just like a final thought, that throughout this series of these conversations, we've been talking a lot about unmet needs of childhood, and how it is up to us to now meet those needs as we are adults through, by ourselves and with the help of other people who are there to offer. But I feel like today, I feel like when you are asking about differentiating between needs and wants and what it takes to meet the needs so that you can move on to, let's say, wants and other things, there is this implicit assumption that it is possible to meet all your needs in adulthood. And I don't think it is. And there is always some level of discomfort, and there is always something which is unmet, and that's what creates these dynamics in life. And I guess that what I'm saying is that there shouldn't be this ideal point that like I need to meet all of my needs first and then I can go about my life and do stuff. Like, it's just never going to happen. So yeah, I guess it's about finding this point where it's just enough so that I can try to explore, try to find the state of curiosity within me.
I just want to add just short one. It seems like this idea or concept of, you need to be whole yourself to attract a whole partnership so that you can co-create together and not extract love or whatever subjective internal things that you need to give to yourself. We won't extract it from others. So it seems like with what you've said, and it actually clicked in my head, that you don't need to be whole, like entirely whole, to open yourself for experiences and people, but just be aware and okay with what you have and being enough. Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you. Because it becomes a goal to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot. I think if you can be okay with being in a place of learning, with not knowing all the answers, with not being able to 100% help everyone else and yourself. A lot of people, they don't necessarily feel comfortable in that place. They want to have the answers, they want to be the best. But are you ever really going to have all the answers or be the best? Like, ever? Probably not. And then also on top of that, when you can kind of lean more towards that understanding, then being kind and showing compassion to yourself in those moments when you don't know these things, whether to help yourself or to help others. I think if you can like not master but work towards those two things, not necessarily knowing and having the answers and also being kind and understanding of yourself, not knowing those things, it's a bit like a 1-2 punch kind of thing, like a 1-2 punch of peace within yourself, and then you'll go from there and just do what you can do and figure it out, and that's okay. And that makes sense.
It's okay.
That's a good way to conclude, because it's a process that's continuously dynamic. Okay, it isn't about 100%. It's about the degree to which and how it is at a particular time we might be operating from one or more unmet needs. And it's that self-awareness that allows us to organically unfold as we discover. And so there's not an arrival point. There's not, I got to do this first and then I can do the rest. It's living in that subtext of self-awareness that allows us to keep accepting, keep allowing for what it is that's happening. And when we get a little bit of insight as to, oh, maybe I'm overcompensating, or I'm coping, or I'm, that comes out of some part of me that I haven't explored enough or deeply enough. And believe me, that happens when you're 72, as well as when you're, as young as all you guys are. So it's not as if there's an arrival there, but there is, I say, know that you know what you know, and know that you don't know what you don't know, And both of those things are very important in terms of allowing ourselves to accept who we are. So thank you. Thank you, Aidan, for not only coming, but for showing up in a very real way and sharing your thoughts and ideas. And I think it adds to what we have here, yourself, and of course, thank you to both of you, because you're steadily following and tracking these thoughts and being curious and interested and teasing out some of the parts that are less clear, and in a way that feels connecting. Okay, and it feels like we're together sorting this out. And particularly today, I feel like, okay, I'm sort of representing this old man version, like maybe I'm supposed to know more than everybody, but I think there's room for what we all bring, and so thank you for that.
And this what makes this space very magical and powerful. It's because we bring who we are on the table. And I just want to make this take this time, Aidan, for saying thank you for being open and for saying yes and for being here. And Eva for always consistently saying yes to my requests.
Even at 8:30 in the morning.
Yes, early in the morning. I still hear her like, oh, she's working late right now. And I feel all these kind of things, but I'm always grateful how the dialogue ends and it gives satisfaction. So thank you, everyone.